Awaken your spirit, chosen one. The world has told you to stay quiet, to shrink, to hide that deep knowing inside you that whispers, you were meant for more, but no more. This is your divine interruption. Because you're not just walking in through life, you're carrying keys that unlock healing, truth, clarity, and freedom for people who've been spiritually suffocating without even knowing it. They don't see it yet, but you're the only one left standing between them. And total collapse, the emotional collapse, the spiritual collapse, the generational collapse. You're not just someone with potential, you are the rescue plan, the one anointed to see through the fog, to feel what others bury, to hear what others silence. You were sent with divine instructions written into your very soul. And even if you've tried to run from it, suppress it, or explain it away, you know the truth. You are their only hope, and that's not a burden. It's a calling. You've always felt the weight of things no one else could name. You've cried over wounds that weren't yours. You've battled in silence, wondering why your heart feels heavier, your path rougher, your spirit so deeply tuned into pain you didn't create. It's because heaven gave you the frequency of freedom. You were born to feel what they can't, so you could break what they couldn't. You carry what no one else can, because no one else was designed to. That quiet ache in your chest, that divine fire that keeps pushing you forward even when you're tired, misunderstood, or alone. That's the signal. That's the confirmation. That's the call to rise. You don't need validation. You don't need a crowd. You need obedience to what's already moving inside of you. Because the moment you accept it, truly accept that you are the bridge between their chaos and their deliverance, everything shifts. You're not late. You're not broken. You're not too sensitive. You were hidden for protection, not rejection. Shielded from premature exposure, so your strength wouldn't be diluted. Because had they seen you too soon, they would have tried to steal the oil before the lamp was even lit. If your power had been revealed without wisdom, it would have been destroyed. If your heart had been made vulnerable without understanding, it would have been exploited. And if your voice had been unleashed before your spirit was anchored, it would have been weaponized. That's why heaven hid you in plain sight, to protect the people you were born to serve, including yourself. The world is trembling right now. People are unraveling. Shadows are getting louder. And still you remain, watching, praying, wrestling, holding your peace while chaos screams around you, not because you're passive, not because you're indifferent, but because you're strategic. Heaven doesn't send warriors who panic. Heaven sends warriors who observe, discern, and then act precisely, powerfully, and with purpose. You don't need to announce your arrival. You are the announcement, and now is the time, not tomorrow, not when you feel more ready. The call is here. The urgency is real. The breakthrough is already shaking in the spirit, and someone's life is hanging in the balance, not because of what you say, but because of who you are when you show up. Chosen one, you are the divine response to a silent emergency. A walking answer to a question someone hasn't even formed yet. You're their only hope, and heaven has placed the baton in your hand. Don't wait for the world to understand it. Just walk in it, and if this word speaks to the truth you've always felt, don't let it pass you by. Like this video, subscribe, and comment with "I am their hope" to join this journey. You are not alone, and your time is now. You've been walking through this world like a mystery even to yourself, like a fire sealed in a jar, glowing quietly, never burning out, but waiting for the winds of destiny to blow the lid off. Chosen one, your time of hiding wasn't random. Your seasons of silence weren't wasted. That ache in your chest, that stillness in your soul, that sense that you were meant to do something, be something, change something, that wasn't your imagination. That was your confirmation. You weren't sent here to blend in. You weren't designed to play small, shrink into the background, or mimic the noise of the world. You were sent here on assignment, not to fit the system, but to interrupt it, to bring a divine shift so strong that everything built on falsehood begins to tremble in your presence. That's why you've always felt different. That's why people projected their confusion onto you. That's why you were the one who got left out, looked over, or labeled as too much or not enough. They didn't see the assignment. You were never meant to be understood by those not called to your frequency. You are not common. You are a rescue mission in motion, a divine response wrapped in flesh. The moment your soul hit this earth, a ripple began. But it wasn't supposed to be seen too soon. Because had the world recognized what you carry before you were ready, they would have tried to use it or destroy it. You had to be hidden so that you could be forged, not flattered. Built in truth, not broken by lies. You weren't set apart to suffer. You were set apart to be made ready. The wilderness didn't break you, it built you. Every lonely night, every misunderstood moment, every silent battle, it wasn't for nothing. The silence didn't mean you were forgotten. It meant heaven was watching, protecting, shaping, pulling you deeper into alignment, so that when the time came, you wouldn't just speak truth, you'd embody it. You weren't sent to survive culture, you were sent to confront it with love, with wisdom, with a peace that feels like war to the enemy. You are heaven's disruption in a system that feeds on confusion. You're not just light in a dark room, you're the switch, the one that turns it all on, the one that reveals what was hidden, what was broken, what was buried. And you don't need a title, you don't need applause. You don't need a crowd to start walking like the answer, because the truth is, you've been the answer all along. You were made for this moment. You've seen too much to play blind. You've felt too deeply to pretend you don't care. And even when you tried to live like everyone else, something inside of you always pulled you back. Like gravity, like a divine magnet drawing you home to your truth. That's purpose, that's power, that's calling. You didn't miss your moment. You are the moment, the ones around you. They don't know they're drowning. They're smiling through brokenness, laughing while carrying wounds that bleed in silence. People don't need more noise. They need a lifeline. And guess what? You're it. The reason your presence feels heavy is because it's sacred. You shift atmospheres just by showing up, not because you're perfect, but because you're real. And in a world built on illusion, authenticity is holy. That's why they stare at you. That's why people project jealousy without reason. That's why you've been copied, critiqued, and even imitated by people who claim not to like you. It's not about what you do. It's about what you carry. You carry light they can't label. You carry answers they can't find in themselves. You carry an energy that makes demons nervous and the lost feel safe at the same time. You're not just different, you're divinely disruptive, and that disruption is needed now. There's someone barely holding on, praying for a miracle they can't even articulate. They're asking for a sign, and you are that sign. Your voice, your courage, your obedience, it matters more than you know. You may feel small in moments, but in the spirit realm, your ripple is creating waves that knock down strongholds. It's not about perfection, it's about presence. Just showing up with your whole heart has the power to break chains. Your truth, raw and unfiltered, has the power to ignite healing. Your story, no matter how broken it may seem, is a map for someone else's breakthrough. You're not waiting on someone else to step in. You're the one, and maybe that terrifies you. Good. That means you're on the right path. Purpose isn't comfortable, it's costly, but you've already paid the price. The loneliness, the betrayal, the internal wars no one ever saw. You've bled in silence and smiled in storms. You've been stripped to the core and still chose love, still chose grace, still chose to rise when you could have stayed bitter. That is spiritual wealth. That is heaven's investment. And it's time to let it circulate. Don't wait for someone to validate what God already spoke. Don't delay your obedience waiting for perfect conditions. The floodgates are already opening. The only question is, will you walk through? It's not too late. You haven't missed it. In fact, you were never behind. Heaven has been orchestrating this down to the second. Your pain wasn't wasted, it was preparation. Your rejection wasn't random, it was redirection. Everything was for this. They tried to break you, but they didn't realize. You're not glass, you're gold, pressed, purified, and priceless. And now it's time to move. Not in fear, not in hesitation, but in alignment, because the earth is groaning for the sons and daughters of God to rise. And that means you. It's time to stop second-guessing, time to stop dimming yourself so others can feel comfortable, time to stop negotiating your value like your light is up for debate. You've been through too much, you've grown too deep, and heaven didn't keep you alive for you to play it safe. This world doesn't need another copy. It needs your authenticity, your power, your truth. You were made to disturb darkness and awaken hope, and you don't even have to try. It's in your presence. Your stillness carries more authority than their shouting. Your love breaks more chains than their manipulation. Your wisdom silences confusion without saying a word. You're the quiet storm they didn't see coming. And you don't need to raise your voice to be heard. You just need to rise. Chosen one, everything is already inside of you. The authority, the clarity, the wisdom, the fire. You don't need to go searching for it in other people. You just need to remember. Remember who you were before the world told you who to be. Remember the dreams you had before fear tried to erase them. Remember the voice you silenced so you could survive. It's time to unmute your soul. You were born with heaven's blueprint written on your bones. You didn't choose this path. It chose you. And now the world is catching up to what heaven has known all along. You are the answer hidden in plain sight. Your yes matters. Your obedience shifts timelines. Your courage unlocks destinies. And your existence is not a coincidence. It's divine strategy. So stand up. Not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. Speak. Not because you have all the words, but because your voice was made to pierce through noise. Move. Not because you know the whole map, but because the next step is already anointed. You are their only hope. Act now. If this message resonated deep in your spirit, then it wasn't by accident. Like this video, subscribe and comment "I am their hope" to step into your assignment. Let the world watch what heaven already declared. You were chosen for such a time as this. You've always stood at the edge of two worlds, one where people operate on what they see, and another where you've always sensed what they can't. The spiritual realm has never felt far from you. It breathes through your intuition. It pulses through your discernment. You walk through places and feel what's off before it's spoken. You know things you were never taught. And yet you've questioned yourself, not realizing that this isn't confusion, it's calling. You are the bridge, chosen one, the divine link between revelation and action. You weren't born to sit in the crowd and clap for others. You were born to carry what heaven wants to manifest on earth. When you speak, people feel conviction, not because you're loud, but because truth rides on your words. When you walk into a room, the atmosphere shifts, not because of ego, but because of what you carry. You are a spiritual conduit, a carrier of instructions that don't make sense to the world, but they make perfect sense to God. There are people around you right now who have no idea they're in the presence of someone anointed. They look at you and see normal, but the unseen realm knows the weight of your obedience, your daily yeses to things no one claps for, your unseen prayers, your sacrifices, your decision to walk away instead of retaliate. You've been doing spiritual heavy lifting while smiling in public. That's authority. But here's the thing. Heaven can't afford for you to keep second-guessing yourself. Too many assignments are waiting on your alignment. You've been trained in private, but the shift is coming where your voice will carry weight that breaks generational confusion. Not because you're forcing it, but because you're living it. And yes, it will be uncomfortable, because bridges get stepped on, walked over, misunderstood. But you weren't built to break, you were built to carry. The insight you hold is heaven's answer to the confusion of a generation that's drowning. In noise, you've been sent to translate divine truth into practical power, to walk in such alignment that people feel convicted without you preaching, to love so purely that it disarms bitterness, to stand so anchored that others find their footing in your stillness. And it starts with obedience, not the kind of obedience that seeks approval, but the kind that moves even when the room is silent, even when no one claps, even when the people you were sent to help don't understand your presence. You are not called to be liked. You are called to be effective. There is deliverance locked inside your obedience, the kind that won't come through another motivational quote or another self-help seminar. It's in you. And it doesn't require a stage. It requires surrender. Your yes unlocks someone's escape. Your healing becomes their blueprint. Your courage to speak when it's easier to stay silent becomes the very tool that shatters spiritual chains they didn't even know they had. That's how heaven works. Quiet miracles through humble vessels. That's you. You've been asking why it's been so heavy, why your process feels more intense than everyone else's, why your pain seemed deeper, your silence longer, your battles more hidden. It's because you're not just being prepared for personal elevation, you're being trusted with generational transformation. You've cried tears for battles that weren't even yours. You've fought spirits that didn't originate in your timeline. You've broken cycles you didn't start, and still you stand with open hands, with a willing heart, still saying, God, use me, and He is. You think it's small because it's quiet. But heaven doesn't measure impact by noise. It measures it by obedience. You think it's delayed because you don't see the results yet. But heaven is measuring your heart, not your timeline. There are people walking around today, free, healed, covered, because you obeyed. You stayed when it was easier to leave. You forgave when it was easier to hate. You spoke life when death would have been the easier word. That's divine maturity, that's spiritual leadership, and now the stakes are getting higher, which means your obedience will require more courage, more clarity, more sacrifice, but also more reward. Not just in material things, but in seeing lives shift around you, in watching people catch fire because you lit the match, in hearing someone say, I don't know what it is about you, but you helped me believe again. That's what this is all about. Not clout, not recognition, not perfection, impact. And that impact echoes through generations. People you'll never meet will live freer because you didn't fold, because you chose to answer the call, because you didn't wait for the pain to stop. You transformed it into purpose. Even now, heaven is whispering over you. You're doing better than you think. You're carrying more light than you realize. You're healing people without knowing it, just by being honest, just by staying soft in a hardened world, just by refusing to let bitterness define you. And I know, sometimes you wonder if it's all worth it. You question if what you're doing matters. But listen carefully, it does, more than you'll ever know. You're watering seeds that haven't broken the surface yet. You're breaking ground others thought was barren. You are the evidence that faith still works, that obedience still matters, that purity still has power, and even when it doesn't feel like it, your life is the answer to someone's prayer. You may never hear their name, you may never see the ripple, but it's real. You're the interruption in a bloodline of trauma, the new page in a book of pain, the correction to a script that was always headed toward destruction until you came. You're not the problem. You're the pattern breaker, the stronghold smasher, the hope restorer, and the enemy hates that about you. He wanted you confused, paralyzed, lost in self-doubt, because he knows if you ever fully believe what heaven says about you, there's No stopping the wave of change that comes behind you. So don't stop now, not when you're this close to alignment. Not when lives are being shifted by your obedience. Not when your yes is echoing louder in the spirit than any title ever could. There are generations watching you, even if they're not born yet. They'll walk in freedom because you chose to go deeper. They'll build on the ground you had to fight just to stand on. They'll inherit peace because you refused to pass down pain. This is legacy work, and you're doing it without applause, without confirmation, but with full clarity from heaven that this is holy ground. Chosen one, your compassion is not a weakness, it's a weapon. Your heart is not a liability, it's your authority. Your ability to feel deeply, to love fiercely, to forgive freely. That's not soft. That's divine. You're not here to perform. You're here to transform. And when it feels like no one sees it, remember, heaven sees all of it. The tears, the prayers, the boundaries, the sacrifices, the ways you held it together for others, while breaking inside yourself. The quiet way you loved people who hurt you, the unspoken way you kept showing up for a calling that never gave you applause. Heaven saw it, and it's all being counted. So keep going, keep trusting, keep speaking, keep shining. You don't need to do it perfectly. You just need to do it with your whole heart, because you are the blueprint, the original, the vessel handcrafted by God, to carry light into places that forgot it even existed. And when people look back, they won't remember how flawless you were. They'll remember how real you were, how you showed up anyway, how you kept loving anyway, how you lived your truth when it would have been easier to hide. That's what changes the world. Not perfection, but presence. Not noise, but spiritual. Wait, not image, but integrity. You've got it. You've always had it. And now is the time to let it lead. You are chosen, you are seen, you are called, and your compassion. It's covering people in ways they don't even understand yet. That's the beauty of spiritual leadership. You love them before they love themselves. You believe in healing before they even believe in hope. And it all starts with the heart you've been trying to protect. That heart, it's your greatest gift. Let it shine, let it love, let it lead. You are more powerful than you know, and the world needs your full yes, not later, not someday, now. Some of you have felt like you were born into a storm, raised in the middle of conflict, chaos, confusion, conditions that seemed anything but holy. But what if I told you that storm wasn't your punishment? It was your preparation. What if you were never meant to be a product of your environment, but the breaker of its curse? What if the reason it was so dark around you is because your soul was the light heaven sent into it? Chosen one, you are not simply here to survive a family line. You are the interruption to it, the divine disruption in a cycle of pain, addiction, silence, betrayal, poverty, and emotional neglect. You weren't sent to continue it. You were born to break it. And that assignment, while it is divine, does not come easy. It will cost you comfort. It will cost you fitting in. It may even cost you relationships that were tied to your blood, but not to your destiny. But hear me clearly. You're not here to carry what broke them. You're here to dismantle it with your obedience, with your love, with your refusal to repeat what you never agreed with. You may not have been the one who started the dysfunction, but you are the one anointed to end it. The voices in your lineage that never healed, you're the echo that brings resolution, the prayers that were whispered through tears decades before you were born. You are their fulfillment. Heaven doesn't waste pain, it transforms it. And right now, you are walking in places your ancestors couldn't even imagine, breaking chains they never had the tools to name. Not because you're better, but because you were chosen. You were chosen to see clearly in a house where denial was survival. You were chosen to speak truth where silence was safer. You were chosen to pursue purpose where many settled for patterns, and that choosing, it's sacred, it's weighty, it's why your journey has been heavy at times. Because spiritual assignments come with generational responsibility. You're not only fighting for your own peace, you're fighting for those who came before you and those who will come after you. You're carrying the torch that many dropped. You're rewriting what your bloodline looks like. And though it hurts, though it stretches you, though it sometimes feels like too much, it's not in vain. Every time you choose healing over hiding, you're breaking a curse. Every time you choose forgiveness over revenge, you're breaking a curse. Every time you raise your children with love instead of fear, you're breaking a curse. Every time you tell the truth, you're setting your lineage free. You are the new chapter, the fresh start, the spiritual restoration. And the very fact that you're still here, still breathing, still trying, still hoping, is evidence that the curse ends with you. You carry the blueprint of freedom. And even if no one around you sees it yet, even if they mock it or resist it, you are planting seeds in spirit that will not die. And because of that, because of the weight of your calling, the enemy's tactic has always been distraction. If he can't destroy you, he'll try to delay you. He'll send confusion. He'll try to make you forget who you are. He'll surround you with people who pretend not to notice your glow, so you'll start doubting it yourself. But let me remind you, you are the light. And light doesn't have to scream to be seen. It just shines, silently, constantly, powerfully. The darkness around you only confirms the assignment within you, and that's why you've felt the weight of hesitation in moments when you knew you were meant to move. That's why fear creeps in when you're closest to your breakthrough. It's not just resistance, it's spiritual opposition. It's a signal that your obedience is dangerous to darkness. Because your yes to purpose isn't just about you, it's about everyone attached to your name. People you haven't met, generations you won't live to see. That's legacy. That's why you can't afford to shrink back now. You're carrying promises on your back. You're holding deliverance in your hands. And yes, it's hard. Because saying yes to your calling often means saying no to everything that once made you feel safe. But that's safety. It was stagnation dressed up as comfort. You're not called to stay in the shallow end. You were made for the deep. And it's in those deep places where transformation happens. The most dangerous thing you could ever do is hold back the light that was meant to set others free. So don't you dare hide now. Don't you dare dilute your truth to make others feel okay with staying bound. You didn't come here to be agreeable. You came here to be effective, to move like a living truth bomb, to love like someone who's seen the face of grace, to walk like someone whose feet have touched holy fire. You're not here to make noise. You're here to make impact. You're not here to chase platforms. You're here to carry presence. And presence changes things. Presence shakes systems. Presence breaks yokes. You've got presence. There's a power that walks with you, even when you feel weak. There's a fire that burns in your spirit, even when your heart feels heavy. There's a voice within you that cannot be silenced. Not because it's the loudest, but because it's the truest. That voice says move. That voice says speak. That voice says stand, and even if no one else understands it, even if people question, doubt, criticize, or mock you, it does not matter. You weren't sent to be understood, you were sent to be followed. And those who are meant to follow will feel the call in your presence. They'll recognize the divine in your energy. They'll know, without you having to convince them, that you're different. That difference is divine. That difference is disruptive. That difference is exactly what this world needs. And now more than ever, it's time to walk in it. You've been waiting for the conditions to be right, for people to cheer, for fear to disappear, but purpose doesn't. Wait, destiny doesn't beg, and the longer you delay your yes, the longer someone else remains stuck in the very pit you were sent to pull them from. You are the ladder, the lifeline, The living proof that God still speaks through people, that God still redeems brokenness, that God still sends chosen vessels to dark places, not to be consumed by them, but to conquer them. And you don't have to scream to do it. You don't have to prove yourself to do it. You just have to walk in the quiet authority of someone who knows they were called before time began, someone who knows that their compassion is a covering, someone who knows that their tears have been collected by God, someone who knows that every battle was not for defeat, but for demonstration. Your life is a demonstration of grace, a display of resilience, a testimony in motion, and when you start believing that, fully, unapologetically, you will watch strongholds fall without you lifting a finger. You will see hearts open without you forcing a thing. Because when you walk in alignment, heaven walks with you. Every step becomes sacred, every word becomes weighty, every breath becomes a message. So breathe, chosen one. Speak, love, move, shine. This is not the season to second guess. This is the season to step in. Heaven has already said yes. Now it's your turn. Chosen one, the world has tried to define you by your delays, by your detours, by the doors that wouldn't open and the rooms you were never invited into. But let me tell you something sacred. Your destiny was never tied to their acceptance. You were never meant to be seated at tables where your spirit had to shrink. You were never meant to dance for crumbs when you carry the recipe for a feast. And you were never meant to belong in places that asked you to betray yourself to be loved. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are strategically placed in a divine unfolding. The world sees delay as denial, but heaven sees delay as design. There is a rhythm to your rise, a reason to your waiting. And though it has felt like the door was bolted shut, what you couldn't see is that God was building a whole new entrance behind the scenes, one that couldn't be blocked, manipulated, or handed to someone else. Your future isn't fragile, it's fortified. And this, right here, is the moment it starts to shift. Not because of what's happening around you, but because of what's happening within you. The alignment, the remembering, the realization that the same God who kept you through the losses, through the breakdowns, through the betrayals and the heartbreaks, is the same God who is now calling you forward, not just to receive blessings, but to embody them. You are not someone stumbling into purpose by accident. You are the living answer to divine intention, the kind of person God hides for a season and then reveals with thunder. And it's not about pride, it's not about ego, it's about clarity. The clarity that says, I've been through too much, survived too much, healed from too much, to live like I wasn't made for more. There is a holy confidence rising in you, not arrogance, not entitlement, but the quiet, unshakable knowing that your walk with God has been costly, and that cost is producing fruit that no one can take. From you, you've been sowing in silence, sowing integrity when no one saw your sacrifice, sowing love when bitterness tried to steal your heart, sowing peace when chaos knocked on your door. And now heaven is declaring it's time for the harvest. But this harvest isn't just about material gain. It's about internal overflow, peace that doesn't shake, joy that doesn't fade, wisdom that can't be faked, power that doesn't come from position but from presence, from being someone who stayed with God even when the wilderness tried to steal your voice. You are not the same person who walked through that fire. You are stronger, wiser, sharper, and now you walk not with hesitation but with authority, not because you know everything, but because you know who walks with you. And here's the mystery: your scars have become your testimony. The very things you thought disqualified you, those moments of weakness, of doubt, of failure, have now become your strongest weapons. Because you didn't stay there, you rose, you kept moving, kept believing, kept forgiving, kept pressing even when the ground under your feet felt like quicksand. That's what makes you dangerous in the spirit. The fact that nothing could stop you, not the heartbreak, not the silence, not the betrayal, not the delay. You are proof that resilience isn't loud, it's sacred. Chosen one, it's time to stop waiting for permission to be who you already are. It's time to stop downplaying your power to make others feel comfortable. You weren't created to blend in. You were created to ignite something that has long been dormant in this world. Your truth, your story, your presence. It's not just inspiration, it's divine instruction. People watch how you carry pain, how you hold joy, how you speak peace, and they learn from you without you ever teaching a class. You are a walking revival, and yet I know there are days where you still feel unqualified, where the weight of the responsibility makes you question if you're really the one. But let me remind you, God never calls the convenient. He calls the committed. You are not perfect, but you are willing, and that's more than enough. Heaven moves not through flawless people, but through surrendered ones. You are a surrendered one. The pain, the process, the path, it's all been a preparation for what you're stepping into now. A level of clarity, of discernment, of spiritual maturity that allows you to walk through storms without letting the rain inside you, to sit at tables and read the energy before words are even spoken, to speak truth without fear, to see people not just as they present, but as they really are. That's spiritual sight. That's divine perception. You've always been ahead of your time. Misunderstood, not because you were wrong, but because you were early. What they laughed at before, they'll admire soon. What they rejected then, they'll need now. Because the light in you is not for aesthetics. It's for warfare. You were sent to war with darkness, not with violence, but with vision, with truth, with wisdom, with love so radical that it burns through strongholds. This is what it means to be chosen, to be both the wound and the weapon, the vessel and the victory, to live in the tension of being healing for others while still healing yourself, to pour when your cup is cracked, to speak when your voice trembles, to believe when your heart is tired. That is your strength, and now is your unveiling. No more hiding, no more doubting, no more asking for confirmation on what's already been confirmed. The evidence is your survival. The evidence is your heart, still soft, still open, still tuned to heaven. After everything, you still chose light. You still chose God. That's the sign. And now you will be the sign for others. A sign that they too can rise, that they too can overcome, that they too can walk in divine power without needing man's permission. You are the forerunner, the path paver, the one who goes first, so others don't have to break the ground alone. Walk boldly, speak clearly, love deeply, move deliberately. Because every step you take in obedience shakes foundations in the spirit realm. Every breath you breathe with intention sends a message to the enemy that you're not here to play, you're here to reign. You've earned your crown in fire, not handed to you, but forged in tears, tests and tenacity. This is the moment where you stop apologizing for being chosen. This is the moment where you stop waiting for the stars to align, because you are the alignment. You're the moment. You're the sign. You're the shift. No more delay, no more dimming, no more doubt. It's time to rise, chosen one. Rise in truth, rise in power, rise in love, rise in purpose, because the kingdom is calling, and you're the answer, chosen one. You were never forgotten. You were never overlooked by heaven. You were not abandoned in your struggle, nor silenced by divine neglect. You were hidden, not because you were weak, but because you were dangerous to the plans of darkness. Hidden because God has always known your worth, even when the world failed to recognize your weight. While others measured success by noise, God was measuring your silence. While they looked for crowns, God was looking for character, and you You were becoming sacred ground. Everything you endured, every detour that broke your heart, every prayer soaked in tears, every lonely night, where your only companion was your own breath rising in the dark. Those moments weren't void of purpose. They were the fire, the refining, the shaping. You were being forged in secret, not destroyed, but designed, not delayed, but developed. The pain wasn't punishment, it was positioning, because now you walk with a clarity that no classroom could teach. You move with a wisdom that only the wilderness could give. You love with a depth that only heartbreak could stretch open. You speak with an authority that comes not from a title, but from truth. And your very life is a message that says, I have been through the storm, and I did not drown. I have stood in the fire, and I did not burn. I have walked through betrayal, silence, confusion, fear, and I still chose love. I still chose to believe. I still chose to rise. That kind of power, unseen by many but undeniable in spirit, is what makes you unstoppable. You don't need applause to know you're walking in purpose. You don't need confirmation to move forward. What you carry speaks for itself. It's in the way you walk into a room and shift the energy without saying a word. It's in the way people come to you not because they know why, but because something in them recognizes something in you. That's not random. That's not charisma. That's the mark of the anointed. You were sent as a living answer, the kind that doesn't need to be loud to be heard, the kind that doesn't beg for attention because your spirit already commands it, the kind that breaks generational silence by choosing to speak truth in love, the kind that interrupts old cycles by simply choosing to be honest, the kind that says, I will not die in what destroyed them. I will live, and because I live, others will too. You are the extension of promises made long before your birth. You are the living manifestation of prayers your ancestors didn't have language for. You are the continuation of a conversation between heaven and earth, one where your name was already written in bold. And now it's time to walk like it. Not with arrogance, not with pride, but with the steady, grounded confidence of someone who knows they're backed by heaven. There is no storm you haven't weathered that didn't leave you stronger. There is no betrayal you survived that didn't cleanse your circle. There is no delay you endured that didn't deepen your discernment. Even the waiting was sacred. Even the confusion served a purpose. Even your silence carried sound in the spirit. And now the winds are shifting. You feel it in your bones, the pull to step out, the divine tension of someone who can no longer pretend. They're not called, and yes, the fear will whisper, the doubt will knock, but the fire in you is louder. The assignment in your belly is heavier, and your obedience, it's non-negotiable now. You are not for everyone, and that's okay. You were not created to entertain the masses. You were designed to awaken the sleeping, to revive what the world declared dead, to resurrect hope in places where hope ran dry. You are heaven's yes to people who have only known rejection. You are proof that God still sends help in human form, so let them question, let them stare, let them speculate. They'll see soon enough, because when God lifts someone, no one can deny it. When God breathes on your name, no man's opinion can bury it. When God opens the door, no demon in hell can close it. You won't have to announce what's happening. Your life will do the talking. But don't forget who you are in the process. Don't forget that your strength is not in your performance. It's in your presence. It's not in how perfect your steps are, but in how pure your heart remains while taking them. You don't have to be everything. You just have to be real, be faithful, be grounded, be who God made you to be when no one else was watching. Because, in the end, it was never about impressing anyone. It was about impact, about purpose, about alignment. You're not here to survive. You're here to transform. You're not here to mimic. You're here to rebuild. You're not here to settle. You're here to awaken others by simply being fully awakened yourself. There are people waiting for your courage to become contagious, waiting for your truth to liberate theirs, waiting for your example to prove that yes, it's possible to rise from ashes and still smell like hope. That yes, it's possible to walk through fire and still bless the ones who tried to burn you. That yes, it's possible to live from a higher place even when life tried to bury you in the lowest ones. You are the evidence. You are the echo of a new era. You are not the version of yourself that was broken. You are the version that chose to heal. And that healing, that journey, that transformation, it was never just about you. It was about the lives your life will touch, the souls your story will awaken, the chains your voice will break, the future your obedience will unlock, the purpose your presence will stir in others. This is why you were hidden. This is why it felt heavy. This is why you felt alone, because the weight of your call could not be shared with those who hadn't been anointed for it. But now that same call is calling you. Deeper, higher, forward, because your steps have been ordered. Your destiny is undeniable, and your time, your divine moment is here. So walk boldly, walk fully, walk like someone who finally believes what heaven has been saying about you all along. You are not forgotten, you are not weak, you are not too late. You are chosen, you are ready, and you are needed. The world is shifting, the gates are opening, the light is rising, and now so are you.